Welcome, everybody, to Seminary Helper. I'm John Merrill Kirkman, and I'm here to share General Conference prep lesson with you. I also have a General Conference review lesson that I've already uploaded to YouTube. Both of these are a lot of fun, and I really love this activity at the end of class. Be sure to check out that activity, the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star activity, or Make a Tune activity, as I call it. So excited to have you. I love General Conference and I love teaching seminary. I hope that comes through my videos. I absolutely love seminary teaching and I love helping everybody else to have a great experience in seminary. I love to try to help people to have a great experience in seminary. I love helping people and serving. And I just want to tell all of you that you are amazing. First and foremost, if you are a seminary teacher, you are amazing. You're doing incredible things. You're a hero. You're being heroic. You're choosing to be heroic. You're incredible. I just wanted to share, if you haven't checked out Walking with the Savior Testimonies of Jesus Christ podcast, this is my other fun project where I interview people about their journey with Jesus Christ. If you're interested in just listening to people's story about how Jesus Christ has changed their life, check that out. It's just one of my hobbies as well. So let's get into this lesson, General Conference Prep. This is straight out of the life lesson. For those outside of Utah, the life lessons begin in January, but we've been teaching them for a while. The General Conference Prep lesson was one of the life lessons, and this comes from the introduction for that. It says, intentionally preparing for and participating in General Conference enables us to receive personal revelation. The messages of inspiration and guidance given in General Conference come from the Lord through his chosen leaders. This lesson can help us prepare to hear the personal messages from the Savior in General Conference. And so I might read this, or I might say, turn to your neighbor and read every other bullet. And then I say, hey, who loves General Conference? Who out there loves General Conference? Now, usually in a class of, I'll have 28 to 30 students, I get 5 or 6 hands go up and I ask them, why do you love General Conference? And I'll ask them that question and just listen to their responses. Hopefully in your class, you have somebody that raises their hands to who loves this General Conference question. So I have a little General Conference trailer. This is from April 2024. I'm hoping as we get a little bit closer to General Conference, this is 2 weeks out now. I'm hoping they'll have a October 2024 General Conference. And so I have the link here. It's linked in those show notes or in the PowerPoint. And as you get closer to conference and you want to go to Google or go to YouTube, search General Conference trailer and see if there's one for October. That's just a way to get a little bit of excitement about General Conference. I love the General Conference trailers that you can find on YouTube. Then I ask kids, what do you do to get more out of General Conference? Have a little class conversation. Or I'll say, turn to your neighbor and ask them, what do you think we could do to get more out of General Conference? Or what helps you to get more out of General Conference? And I want the discussion to lead towards this. And after everyone has talked, they'll usually talk about praying or playing games or taking notes, and those are all fantastic. This lesson, I want to make this statement. The way to get the most out of General Conference is to make it about him. President Nelson has said, the purpose of this and every General Conference is to help us to hear him. Isn't that awesome? I love that. Make it about Christ. Instead of going to listen what the prophet has to say, let's go listen to hear what the Savior has to say to us. And so perhaps we could think of, like, anciently we have prophets, and today we have our Samuel the Lamanite, President Nelson. But here it says, whether by mine own voice or by the voice of my servants, it is the same. As we have our President Nelson, let's learn about Jesus Christ and what he has to say. We just covered Samuel the Lamanite in the Book of Mormon. This is September 2024. And we just covered Samuel the Lamanite. And we learned how important a prophet was. And today we have President Nelson. But when we hear our prophets speak, let's not listen to what the prophet has to say. Let's listen for what the Savior has to say. Focus on what does Jesus have to tell us through his living prophet. Does that make sense? Just making that an emphasis. And so conference is a time to go and have the Savior reach down to us. The Savior's reaching down for us. The Savior's offering to help us out of our dark depths of drowning. The Savior's reaching down, offering to help us out of the streams and the waters and the rushing storms of life. So if we want to hear him, we've got to sit with him. And that's really what General Conference is all about. Sitting with the Savior. I love that approach. So I have some quotes about General Conference and getting more out of it. And this one's kind of like why D&C 44:2, which is like the Spirit, I will pour out my Spirit upon them in the day that they assemble themselves together. One of the early scriptures about gathering for a conference. These are awesome quotes. And so what I want to do is challenge them to silently read these. And then what I will do is what I likely will do, depends on the class, and you gauge your class too. But I like to do an inside-outside circle. And I have a short video on that on my channel. You space kids around in an outside circle, and then you have an inside circle of students. And so they pair up. And so what I'll do is, okay, say you have 20 students. I'll count to 10, say you guys form the outside circle, spread out, spread around the circle class and make a circle. And then I say, okay, the other 10, go find a partner and pair up. And then what I'll do is I'll say, okay, I want you to share what you marked from quote number 1. Okay, rotate, inside circle, rotate one person. And then I'll say, okay, talk about what you marked now in the second quote and what you thought was meaningful. And so these are real quick shares, but I'm getting them to talk about these quotes. After I do that for these 4 quotes, so they're rotating like 4 times. So I'll say go back to your seat and divide in. Here's the next set of quotes. And this study page, as always with the PowerPoint, is in the show notes. So you can use, you're ready to go. So this right here is the second aspect of the study page. And it's kind of like before conference, here are some ideas. During conference, here are some ideas. After conference, here are some ideas. And so you could divide it with your teammate and say, you could have teammates divide it and say, okay, why don't you read the top half and why don't you read the bottom half? Or you could say, take turns and read it together. If you divide it up, then you say, okay, share with your teammate what you learn and take turns to help each other mark and learn what you read. Then I have this little video clip. It's about 1 minute. And it's all about asking questions during conference, coming prepared with the questions that you need answers for in your life. And so the idea is to take some time before a conference and write some notes. And the best time to do that and to get the highest success rate is to do it in class. If we just tell them to do it, some will do it, some won't. And so I like to give them time in class. And so I've prepared a box, general questions. Write down 1 to 5 questions that you would like to ask the Lord in your life. And just prepare those. And I tell them, I'm not going to ask you your questions. They can be quite personal, and that's for just you. And one thing that might be helpful is to do this several days before a conference. So like the week before conference, do it on Monday. And then maybe the next time you meet with them, say, hey, pull out your questions, review your questions. And then maybe the last day before a conference, have them write down their questions on a Post-it note that they can take home or a little piece of paper so they can have it with them. And be encouraging them to pray about those questions all week. Really, really powerful experience if kids will do that. And so by doing it in class, we get a higher number of kids that will do it. Once they're done with this, I say, I would like you to just take time and write what you will do to get 1% more out of General Conference. And the reason I emphasize 1% is because it's not overwhelming. We're not looking for grand changes to our life. but a lot of times it's the little 1% changes that add up over the time that make a huge difference. And so if they're looking for what's one thing I could do to make my life better as inspired by General Conference, then and they do that one thing, then that becomes a powerful, perhaps even life transformative for them. And so I want to make it simple, just a small hurdle. What can you do to get 1% more out of conference? Come up with a plan to where you can get more out of conference. And then after conference, try to apply it. And if you go look at my review conference lesson, it video, that it'll have this where you pull this out and students respond to it or read it over and see if they got any responses. Okay, let's get to the really fun activity. This is a really fun activity that I created a few years ago. It's called I just call it a musical challenge or something like that. And what this was, I came up with this was because I was like, how could I involve the musicians in my class and use some of their talents? And so I came up with this idea, kind of random. Using the tune of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, come up with a song on why we should watch General Conference or create a conference rap. You'll be performing for the class as a group. So for this activity, I put them in groups of 4 or 5 or 3 to 5, not too no more than 5. When you get groups more than 5, then people start slacking off. I put in groups of 5 if I have a few weaker students, and I try to pair them up with some stronger students. But typically 3 to 4 or 3 to 5 is a good number for this activity. And so this has been one of my all-time favorites. Honestly, kids just love this. But at first, they're going to be really reserved. So what I do is I say, okay, this is our challenge. You can also create a conference rap or any other tune you want to. But just to get us in the mood, we're going to sing one verse of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And so we sing one verse of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. I know I'm not much of a singer. And then I say, okay, you've got 15 minutes to prepare a tune. And I just walk around and I say, and one thing that really helps, you give them a scrap of piece of paper. And one thing I say is just start writing it down. Somebody will say a line and I'll just say, write it down. Even though it's kind of funny and you're laughing about it, just write it down. And then from there, you can always change it. And so when they get those little ideas, just tell them to go with it. And then I have, once the 15 minutes is up or 10 minutes, whatever it takes for them to do it, I say, okay, we're going to perform. We're going to share these. And at this point, I say, who wants to go first? And there's usually some that just want to get it done first. One thing I do, though, that makes this really fun, and keep in mind, I have a bigger class, and I'm not sure how to work with, if you only had 8 or 10 students, but I tell them, hey, we are going to give everybody a standing ovation as if they just won the Super Bowl. We're going to cheer and clap loudly. And so that makes it kind of fun. So the first group comes up and does their thing. And then when they're done, we'll stand up and cheer. In fact, I even have them practice a standing ovation before we get any of the people up there to share. Practice a standing ovation. And I might even have them do it a couple of times. I didn't feel the enthusiasm. I want to feel the enthusiasm. And so you get them to do that. And then that first group goes up there. And what I like to do also is if you can't and there's nobody else around, no big deal. But I like to go get a couple other teachers or the secretary and bring them in and ask them to be a judge. Now they're just having fun with it. I don't bring any big treats or anything, but they'll come in and sit in the back, and that kind of amps it up a little bit. And then that first group goes, and then we just give a roaring standing ovation, and it's super affirming and super positive. And so I've had a lot of fun with this. I really enjoy it. I've seen some cool things happen with it. And so it's really fun to hear them sing about watching General Conference and why they should watch it. And honestly, it's been a blast. So So there goes my conference prep lesson. Uh, I was going to say one thing. If you want, you might want to put this after, but you want to make sure you get to this. If I was thinking I might need a break right here, and maybe move it right here to where you got them, because this is quiet time. Then we go to loud time again, and then we get to quiet time to wrap up. And it just kind of depends on how your class is going and how much time you have. You don't want to miss. Write down your plan. Or if you do this on Monday, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, you come back and you say, hey, we didn't get to finish this. I want you to write down your 1% plan to get more out of conference. Just some thoughts about that, because I don't like doing a lot of quiet activities like write for 5 minutes to your 5 questions. Now, write what's your 1% plan. I like to mix it up a little bit, so I might change that. And yeah, in case you haven't noticed, I haven't taught this yet because it's 2 weeks out before a conference, and I wanted to make sure that you were prepared to do this. I'll save this till probably the Monday before conference. I'll introduce this, and I didn't want to do it that day and then release this video for you. I wanted you to have some time if you want to work it into your schedule. I think doing a conference prep lesson shows the importance to it, and doing the conference review also, you got to check out my conference review lesson. It is amazing. I think both of these lessons show the importance of general conference and having living prophets, and how much we believe in living prophets. And most of all, how we believe that God speaks to us and Jesus Christ speaks to us through living conference, that he is reaching for us and trying to bless our lives, that this isn't about going to hear what the prophet has to say. This is about going to hear Jesus Christ speak to us. And when we place it like that and emphasize the importance of what does the Savior have to say in our lives and direct our lives for good and for happiness, it changes the meaning of it to a much deeper level. And this is what I consider to be converting lessons, because this has power to transform people's lives. Uh, just if we get students engaged with conference and committed to really engaging in general conference, that could change somebody's life. Thanks for giving me this time. Have a great day, everybody, and enjoy your teaching.